everybody, welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new around here. I hope you're all having an absolutely killer day. Thank you for tuning in once again. So today we're going to hit up another movie review, and today we are talking about the movie Stream. Directed by Michael Levy, Stream sees us following the Keenan family. The parents Roy and Elaine, played by Charles Powell and Danielle Harris, decide it would be a good idea for the family to get away for a weekend for some quality family time. But little do they know, the hotel has been taken hostage, and they're in the middle of a sadistic game where 4 deranged killers compete to murder the guests in the most creative ways possible. Now, just a quick warning, there might be some minor spoilers in this review, so if you haven't seen the film yet, I highly recommend you go check it out first before watching this, then come back, watch this, give me some feedback, be happy to hear from you guys, but moving forward, just be warned. So I actually had the pleasure of seeing this when it released. Myself and 4 other friends went to go see this in theaters when it released. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I knew as soon as I finished watching it that I definitely needed to see it again. I wasn't really doing reviews at that point yet, so I'm still new to this, so bear with me. However, I knew that on second viewing, I was definitely going to do a review for this, and now that it's available for streaming, I finally got a chance to watch it again, so here we are. I definitely enjoyed this film. I love independent horror. It was great to see the Fuzz and the Lens guys do something different. Of course, I'm a huge Terrifier fan. If you're not familiar with Fuzz and the Lens, you know, Jason Levy and Michael Levy are both part of this production. There's other members as well. I follow these guys online. I love what they're doing. They're bringing something new and exciting to independent horror. So I'm all for it. It's great to see these small releases, you know, getting their way out there and bringing something original. The closest thing I could think to compare this to, really, in my viewings, would be like The Running Man, which is a super old movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. And again, not in its delivery, but just kind of the whole idea of having this game show where you have, you know, a killer versus, you know, their victims and having to fight their way through that. So it's got a similar premise in that sense. One of the people I went to the movies with did mention that the movie 31 by Rob Zombie was kind of reminiscent of this. I, however, have not seen that movie, so I can't compare it. If you've seen it, let me know what you think. But either way, this was an absolute blast. Now, as far as the story goes, nothing too complicated here, which is great. Sometimes simple is better, and this definitely is a slasher at heart. It has a fairly long run time. It's clicking in there at about 2 hours, which is not uncommon for these guys, given that Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3 are both over 2 hours long. But it's a great chance to have some character development here to actually care about the victims and, you know, the people who die and whether or not the other people escape. So I think that's great. And on that note, all the actors in this did a fantastic job. I really can't say anything bad about anybody. Of course, the one downfall to this is that our killers are silent killers, so it makes it difficult for them to have a real personality, so they have to do that all through body language. We have 4 killers in this, and of course, one of those is played by none other than Art himself, Mr. David Howard Thornton. He's player 2. Thought he did a great job. There are some similar mannerisms to his Art character, but he's definitely more of a flamboyant character in this, so there is some separation there for sure. Player 1 was played by Jason Levy, again, one of the Fuzz and the Lens guys, so that was cool. I would say he's the most, you know, basic killer of the bunch. You know, there's nothing outstanding about him. He's just kind of your straightforward killer. Now, player 3 is played by a woman who I'm not familiar with. I didn't think she added a whole lot to the killers, but she was a great duo with David Howard Thornton to player 2. So I thought she was fun, definitely suited. And of course, player 4 is this big muscly guy that just absolutely destroys everything in his path. I thought he was a lot of fun, and that was a characteristic of his. I could see this being a little bit troublesome moving forward, because if the characters aren't going to talk, it is going to be hard to give them their own traits and really have them stand out in future installments. Assuming this movie did well enough to garner a sequel, I hope it did, because I think they set up something good here, and I could definitely see it just getting better and better over time. Now, I thought all the actors did a great job in this, and there's many familiar faces in this, including those of the likes of Jeffrey Combs, of course, who I best know as being Herbert West from Reanimator, which is one of my all-time favorite films. He, of course, plays Mr. Lockwood, who is in charge of this whole sinister game that's been set forth. As mentioned, the parents were played by Charles Powell, who I'm not personally familiar with, and Danielle Harris, who you probably best know as being part of the Halloween franchise. She's also in some of the Hatchet movies. We have the 2 kids in this who are named Kevin and Taylor. Kevin is played by Wesley Holloway, who you might recognize as being the kid in the Clown Cafe from Terrifier 2. And we have Sydney Meliké playing Taylor, who I've not seen before, so she was new to me, but I thought she did a great job. We also get Tim Reed, who I know best from WKRP in Cincinnati. Dee Wallace, who I recognize mostly from E.T. She's also in The Howling and Cujo and a slew of other movies in the past. Tony Todd, who you probably best know as playing Candyman. Mark Holton, who I recognize from Leprechaun. Of course, we got Bill Moseley, who we best know from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 as Chop Top. He's also part of Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil Rejects 3 from Hell series. We also get Daniel Roebuck, who plays this drunk character who's quite funny and definitely adds some levity to the whole movie. His scenes are definitely a standout for me, and it's funny because he's also in Terrifier 3, so it makes me wonder if they just happened to get him for both movies at the same time. We also get Felissa Rose, who we best know from Sleepaway Camp. And of course, we get Tim Curry, who is best known as being Pennywise from the original It movies, as well as I'm familiar with him as playing the devil in Legend. So yeah, a slew of familiar faces in there. I thought everybody did a great job. I had no problem with the acting whatsoever. You know, this is a slasher film. I'm not expecting Oscar award-winning performances here. As long as the characters are believable and they're doing their job, I'm pretty happy. I'm not that hard to please. I know some people really pick on people's acting, but sometimes what comes across as realistic on screen might not be what's realistic in life and vice versa. So everybody acts differently. Everybody's going to have a different reaction to a situation they're put in. So I think this is all very subjective, unless it's clear that they really are just reading off a script or something like, oh, hey, what is that? You know, I mean, we know what terrible acting is, but I think if you're putting some emotion into it and you're invested in the character, then really that's enough that sells me on it. As far as the sound goes in this, you know, it didn't stand out to me as anything particularly special. You know, there was nothing unique about the sound design as far as I could tell. It all worked. There was no issues with it whatsoever, so clearly it was solid. And if we're talking about the score, again, we got Paul Wiley here, who also does the score for the Terrifier movies, and it sounds fantastic. We get a lot of that kind of 80s dark synthwave kind of sound, which I think is fantastic. I'm definitely a fan of it and love hearing it in movies like this. Just reminds me of the 80s and all the horror movies that I grew up on. So it all worked well for the film and thought it suited perfectly. And of course, we can't talk about this movie without talking about the kills and the gore and the FX. Now, these are fantastic. They are done by none other than Damien Leone himself, who of course is the director of the Terrifier movies. So while you go into this, you should not expect the levels of gore that you expect out of the Terrifier movies. We're not pushing those limits, and the movie doesn't want to be Terrifier. We already have those films. It's trying to do its own thing, but I can definitely say there's some gnarly kills in this that are very brutal, very well done, and you can clearly tell they were done by Damien Leone. He has a certain style, and he has a thing for eyes. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's definitely impactful. It definitely works, and I enjoy it every time they do something to somebody's eyes because you just feel it. It just feels wrong and gnarly and disgusting. So it's definitely a great time, and they definitely don't leave that one alone in this. So once again, excellent effects in this. Anyone who's a fan of practical effects and likes their gore will definitely not be disappointed with this one. Now, it's always hard to rate these movies. I just kind of throw an arbitrary number out there. This isn't based off anything other than the way I feel about it after seeing it. And I will admit, I'm a little biased here because I do follow these guys. I very much like what they do. I think it's incredible these guys are bringing the movies to theaters that we're getting. It's unheard of. I love getting these unrated films that, you know, just get to slide underneath the ratings board, but everybody's eating up, it seems. Now, I don't know how successful this movie was, but I definitely hope it was enough to garner a sequel. They certainly set it up to lead to that, so I think there's a lot of potential with this franchise. I think they could have a lot of fun. There's a lot of things you could do here, and if they can get more money behind them, it just opens up more doors and allows them to be more creative and do crazier kills. I don't know what they're going to do story-wise to change things up, but that's what keeps it interesting. These guys are very creative, so I'm sure they can come up with something. But I'm definitely here for it, so hopefully we get something. So if you enjoyed this film, do whatever you can to support it. I've seen Michael Levy asking people to leave reviews. So go on IMDB, go on Rotten Tomatoes, go on Letterboxd, whatever it takes. You know, put a review there, give your thoughts on it. Just getting the word out there goes a long way. You know, buy some merch, pick up the Blu-ray, do whatever you got to do to help support. Just like anything that you enjoy, it goes a long way. These guys are independent filmmakers. These movies cost a fortune to make, and if we want to see more in the future, you need to support them. So let me know what you thought about the movie. Like I said, I thought it was a lot of fun. Hopefully everybody who checked it out enjoyed it. Leave your thoughts down below. Be happy to hear from you. Always happy to engage with you guys. Again, I've started doing this because I'm such a big fan of horror movies that I just want to talk to other people about them. So always happy to engage. Hope everybody has an awesome day. Thank you so much for tuning in for this video. I appreciate all of your support. Of course, if you have a moment to support this channel, then please subscribe. It helps the channel grow. Impale that like button, and if you'd like to get our future updates, stab the notification bell down below for that. Also, you can follow me on all of the major platforms. The links are below for that. I put a link down there on IMDB for some more information on the film, as well as to the trailer if you're not familiar. But thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate all of your support. Hope everybody has a great day. Stay sick, everybody. Cheers.